Let us, without further ado, check in with Mr. Nigel Farage, former leader of the Reform UK Party, former leader of the Brexit Party, now an anti-woke warrior, I think, Nigel. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. I've stood down from party politics after almost 30 years, Mike, and I think I deserve a medal for that, really.
I think you do.
Because party politics is never an easy place, and the smaller the party, the newer the party, the more difficult it is. But look, I got into politics, fighting elections to get us out of the European Union. And I would like to think I contributed a fair bit towards that goal. That is now done. It's history. Sure, we must tidy up what's happening in Northern Ireland, some border issues in Calais and Rotterdam, the fishing industry. Yeah, I get that, but it's done. We've left. The vaccine rollout means there'll be no debate about us ever rejoining.
No.
But what really worries me is the indoctrination that our young people are put through, not just at university, not just at secondary school. It starts even down in primary schools. We're not teaching critical thinking. We're teaching that one side of an argument is good, the other side of an argument is evil.
Yeah.
And these culture wars need to be fought. I want to fight them, and blow me down, the very day, basically, that I say I'm not going to do party politics and Meghan and Harry give this interview.
I was going to say, you couldn't have picked a better week, really, could you? Because it's extraordinary. And as I was saying, the kind of collateral damage that's been caused by this interview. As I said, I mean, heaven help us if she ever decides to wreak revenge on anyone. If this is her version of spreading her truth and her compassion around the world, there's literally buildings falling over right, left and centre.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Piers Morgan thing. I mean, Piers can be very dogmatic. I don't always agree with him, but I must say on this, he was perfectly entitled to hold that opinion. And 41,000 complaints to Ofcom and all the rest of it. But ultimately, it's the cowardice of ITV, isn't it?
It really is.
That's what this is really all about. You can look at America, you can see Newsmax and Fox News. You can look at Australia and see Sky News Australia, where there are commentators that will say what they think, give their opinion. It's then up to the public to decide who do they believe. Who do they believe? So I think Piers has been very badly done by. But reflecting now, a few days on from the interview, the more I look at it, the less truthful the whole thing was. She said her passport was taken away. Yeah. She went on 13 foreign holidays. Poor little Archie didn't get a prince, wasn't entitled as the Queen's great grandson, and on and on and on. It was a litany of lies. It was a theatrical performance. But her defense, you see, her defense is that she was suffering from mental illness. Well, certainly in the interview she wasn't. She was very much in control. Mental illness is a serious problem, and I'm not in any way going to downplay that issue.
Right. But
for people to claim they've got it in order for no one to criticize what they say equally isn't right either. And I see the whole thing as being deeply manipulative on behalf of Meghan. I see Harry just being a weak man ruined. And the knock-on, as you said, the collateral damage is quite extraordinary.
Well, the one that I find even more bizarre than the Piers situation, because we know, as you say, Piers can be bombastic. He certainly doesn't like to be pushed around. And I detected, knowing him as I do, that he was basically at the end of his tether. So I think the Alex Beresford incident was kind of the latest in a long line of them saying to him, this is what we want you to say, this is how we want you to say it. And I think he just got fed up at the end of the day. But Ian Murray, the guy who's the head of, or was the head of the Society of Editors, for him to quit on the basis of him not apparently saying the right thing while defending the British press from accusations of racism is extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, I really was amazed by that, and I wonder where that pressure came from. I'm very surprised that he submitted to it.
Well, apparently it came from the Huffington Post and the Guardian, who are members of the Society of Editors. Well, so what? Exactly right. I mean, as I said,
so what? If they want to leave, if they want to leave, they can leave.
I mean, they are minority publications, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, very much so. But the whole point of a free press is that you allow diversity of opinion. And yet, in this whole woke diversity agenda, everything is allowed apart from diversity of opinion. No, I'm very disappointed that Mr. Murray went, I must say.
Yes, but the thing is, I hope and pray, basically, Nigel, that there is a fight back going on, that most ordinary people, and why we are so successful here at Talk Radio, is because we talk to ordinary people. We speak their language as very much as you do, and as you did during, the referendum, and ever since. And the point about the whole kind of Brexit argument is that in the end, common sense won it. In the end, all of the terrible things that we said, well, we were told were going to happen, haven't happened. And that conversation, as you say, has been done now. It's been had. And I'm hoping this will go the same way.
Well, I mean, on this issue, Mike, we've argued over the last year about lockdown, and I think you and I have been very skeptical about lockdown, and perhaps we've been on that one in a slight minority opinion. Yeah. But hey, we're entitled to say what we think. But on this one, the BBC, Sky, ITV, and Channel 4 are massively out of touch with where this country is. Quick snap opinion poll yesterday, by a majority of 2-1, people want their titles stripped from them. Frankly, most people I speak to never want to see them back on our shores again. How dare they? How dare they trash the Queen? Coming up for a 70th anniversary of head, not just of this country, but actually the figurehead for the Commonwealth, a global organization with 2.3 billion people living in it, most of them black and Asian. So the charge of racism against this royal family doesn't stand up. And how cowardly to say that someone made this comment about what colour the baby may be and then not name who the person was. And the Duke of Edinburgh, who's been by the Queen's side on all those trips to all those foreign countries, year after year after year, relentlessly, tirelessly, in hospital, 99 years old, and very seriously ill. I mean, the whole thing is just so self-indulgent. It beggars belief.
But
frankly, frankly, for Harry to allow this to happen to his family, I really do believe is despicable.
I think so too, and the idea as well that he would allow himself to be sort of basically removed from every single thing that he knows. He talks about this terrible family. He says his own father doesn't take his calls. His brother is trapped in a kind of cage of his own making. I mean, for someone who doesn't want to have the media intruding into his life, he's given away an awful lot of family secrets, hasn't he?
Yes, his brother and father are trapped in a cage. It's called being born a member of the royal family. And you're born with enormous privilege, but also a very large duty as well. Opting out is not what you're supposed to do. You are born into this. And I must say, when I saw Harry being made at 12 years old to walk through the streets of London behind his mother's coffin, I mean, I could barely watch it, Mike. It was horrible. But he did find his role in the world, and it was in the army. And after he left active service, he took on these honorary military positions, which he seemed to love, and they all seemed to love him. And not just the serving armed forces, all the veterans too. He became the champion for the armed forces in this country, the Invictus Games that came with it, and he was loved for all of it. And he's now walked away from all of that, never, ever to return. And I could feel sorry for him, but I just don't.
I think that time has passed. I think a lot of people feel like you do, Nigel, and like I do, quite angry about the way that he has trashed his own family and his own country, let's face it. I mean, they're basically selling that Britain is a racist nation. And if that was the case, then why on earth are there so many people coming here from all over the world? They want to live here because it's one of the most tolerant countries in the entire world.
Yes, and yet in America now we've got, because Meghan and Harry had movers advantage, they were the first people putting out their side of the argument. You've got Hillary Clinton and all the West Coast celebs and even the White House, feeling Meghan's pain, as a victim, but trashing the reputation of the UK into the process. The whole thing is a disgrace. And I must say that Oprah Winfrey, who has a reputation for being this fantastic journalist interviewer, I wonder what she's going to say when she realizes that everything that was told was untrue. The wedding, did they really get married in a backyard?
No.
By the Archbishop of Canterbury 3 days before without any witnesses present? None of this, the more you drill down, none of this is actually true. And I wonder whether Winfrey might just reflect, have I really done a good job of this?
Yeah, and also the idea that she sort of asks Harry about his family, but doesn't mention Meghan's family at all, doesn't bother asking her. And then when Meghan goes, I lost my father, really? I thought you just cut him off. I didn't think you lost him.
Yes, well, it'd be quite fun, wouldn't it, if Oprah was to interview Meghan's half-sister and Meghan's father. We may then get a very different interpretation of who Meghan is. The day of the royal wedding, and I was doing some commentary on it for one of the American networks, and the day of the royal wedding, I was astonished when Oprah Winfrey arrived. And then I discovered that Meghan Markle had only ever met her once before. Now, how many people invite someone to a wedding they've only briefly met once before?
Right.
And I think the plan was there from the very beginning.
Oh, no question.
Get the title, don't do the job, and use it for maximum financial benefit. I think all of this was planned. I think that the interview, I'm convinced there was a big PR agency behind that. They practiced it, they drilled it. And I, you know, Piers Morgan said he didn't believe a word she said. Well, I have to say, I'm not too far behind.
No, quite. Well, also, we learned today in the papers that the BBC were in receipt of a memo from the PR company in charge to say, please do not use any old white men to critique this performance. Well, I'm sorry. The BBC, as much as I've failed to see what the point of it is anymore, if I were them, I'd say, well, don't tell us what to do. Thanks very much indeed. We'll use who we like.
No, if you're white, you must hate yourself,
yes,
regardless of what age or class or sexuality you are. White people must go through a period of self-loathing, and we must promote all other races and religions and differences so that we finish up with a society completely divided where people feel enmity towards each other. Wouldn't it be better to say, treat everybody absolutely equally and the same in a free and fair society? I mean, Martin Luther King must be turning in his grave. You know, he said, I want my 4 children to be judged by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. And we're now judging everybody by the color of their skin. It is, Mike, a disaster.
It really is, but it's also a kind of cynical ploy. I'm not quite sure who the beneficiaries of it are, but my suspicion is that it's an industry now, that there are people getting very wealthy off the back of all of this. There are lots of people getting appointed to jobs which have got the word diversity in them. They're making a pretty penny. We're getting lots of new sort of think tanks starting up, funded by the wokeists and the millionaires that like to pretend to be champagne socialists, you know, and we have to somehow work out who these people are in order to defeat them, don't we?
Well, look, I mean, as you say, there is an industry around it. But also, I mean, you talk about money. You know, there is one financier who has put $20 billion into these kind of causes. 20 billion. Just think about it. I mean, a British general election, you know, the Conservatives might spend 20 million. This guy has put $20 billion into all of these causes. So there are lots of people out there earning very, very big money on the back of all of this. But I won't mention his name, not today, because if you even mention his name, they shout you down and scream at you and accuse you of prejudice. It's quite extraordinary.
It is quite extraordinary. It's a bit like the green industry, isn't it? I mean, there is now no doubt in my mind that there are people who, and I see them on TV all the time being quoted as, you know, climate change sort of experts, but they're not actually climate change experts. What they are is employees of various organisations which are funded in some way, cases by government money, in other cases by private money. But it's, I mean, it's almost as though there's this kind of, you know, shadow economy going on, which is kind of the charities, you know, these think tanks, you know, foundations all over the place, and they're literally manipulating everyone.
Yes, but here's the extraordinary thing, Mike. Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that, but here's the extraordinary thing. It's the extent to which the big corporate companies are going along with it. Big corporate companies like ITV are going along with all of this. Goldman Sachs going along with all of this. And there seems to be some real cowardice in the boardroom. The mob get to them. You know, they get 50,000 emails overnight saying that, you know, they've advertised on a show with a presenter that's given an opinion they don't like. And the advertising department go, oh, my God, everybody hates us. It really, we need to see some more leadership from the business community too, but we're not getting it right at the moment.
And the big tech companies have to have a mention as well, don't they?
Well, of course they do. And, you know, the absolute power that those companies have. And there is no question that we are beginning to see, you know, quite regular shadow banning on big social media platforms. If anybody diverges on the views of the World Health Organization, if anybody says anything about another group of people, that can be construed to be hateful speech. And so half a dozen rich billionaires in San Francisco Bay can really decide what most of the world reads and sees. And that is equally very disturbing.
Yeah, absolutely it is. So how is your new role going to kind of manifest itself without having to ask you to give too much away, Nigel? Because obviously we've got the Reform Party will be run, I'm sure, very capably by Richard Tice. The
Yes,
local
absolutely.
elections are starting up soon. We've got Labour launching their manifesto today, which, as I said earlier, we're not going to bother covering it. We'll just have a laugh later. But the point is, how will you be kind of going forward? What will you be doing?
Well, I mean, I'm 1 week into this project, Mike. I'm talking to you today. If I look a bit baggy-eyed, it's because I've been up all night.
Right.
I've been up all night doing American TV, fighting back
Yep.
against the so-called truth of Meghan Markle. I am working very hard on social media. I've had millions of views for the things that I've seen this week, but I do intend over time to expose more and more what is happening in education, what is happening to our young people, and to fight a battle to get us back to critical thinking. Young people need to be shown both sides of an argument and make their own mind up. I'm not pretending this is going to be easy, but I'm going to have a go.
Well, I'm going to start with the first question on that then, because this is the week that lots of school children went back to school. Many of them are being forced to wear masks, not by law, because it can't be made compulsory, but by this kind of nudge politics, I suppose you might call it. I know lots of parents have been in touch with me saying they've been told, they've been sent videos by their schools saying that you've got a moral duty to protect everybody else and wear a mask for up to 7 hours a day. I find that quite extraordinary.
Yeah, it's horrible. But one thing we can say that's good is at least the kids are back. It's going to be a long time before the pubs are open.
I got an email from the Wheat Sheaf today saying they're taking bookings.
Well, that's good. Look, at least the schools are back, Mike. Rather than drilling into that detail, at least the schools are back. Let's at least celebrate something about the easing of lockdown.
Yes, absolutely right. Well, great to talk to you, Nigel. We wish you well.
Thank you.
We'll always be, of course, a willing partaker of whatever you have to say against the wokists. Nigel Farage now leading a new crusade. He got us out of Europe. Now he's going to try and get us out from under the yoke of woke, which is terrible, isn't it?